Hello everybody, my name is Joshua and I'd like to welcome back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we'll discuss books both new and old. I'll share with you pictures of my cats will make you wish they were your cats, and I'll drink enough coffee for me and everybody watching. Now, speaking of cats and cats, I'm going to give you a quick clip of the cats before we get started. And then we're going to dive right in. So this is my next weekly wrap-up. This covers the 11th through the 18th. Once again, I finished 5 books. I did have a couple of DNFs. And I've basically decided not to worry about the DNFs. I don't need to waste time on those. So I'm only going to focus on the books that I actually finished. 5 this time again. That includes 2 physical books, 2 ebooks, and 1 audiobook, which I think is fairly comparable to last week. Now, this week, though, was a really excellent week of reading. What you'll see as I get into this. The first book that I finished, it was one that was highly, highly anticipated for me. That is John Scalzi's Starter Villain, with this absolutely incredible cover. And this is easily one of my favorite covers of the year. I mean, that's just fantastic. So this book is about a man who is very much down on his luck, but he remains somewhat positive in his attitude, and a bit of a twist from what I've seen a lot of recently, he is just genuinely a very nice person. He knows that he is in a bad situation financially, and yet he cannot resist taking in these stray cats, despite the fact that he can't afford to feed himself. He's instead putting his last bit of money towards the cats. Then one day he learns that his uncle has passed away. It is unveiled that his uncle left him his multi-billion-dollar corporation to run. And as he gets into it, he realizes that it is not the simple matter that he thought it was, because his uncle was, in fact, a villain who created technology that was then used by various governments in the world. He was the stereotypical villain, in fact. And now this totally normal, totally harmless, actually really nice, kind-hearted guy has to try and take it over, with a little help from some of his uncle's old employees, including a hyper-intelligent cat who communicates through typing on a specially designed computer. So, this, to no one's surprise, was a 5-star read for me. It was fantastic. I had a blast with it. The humor really never felt over the top. It was just right for the tone of the book. And it was hilarious. It was so enjoyable. And even though there's absolutely no reason for a second book, I really wish that there was a second book just so that I could continue on with these characters. I loved every one of them. I loved the progression of the story. It all made sense. And I loved how John Scalzi used all of these stereotypes of the supervillain and of spy movies, etc. Used them all in such a way that it made sense in the story, and could kind of poke fun at the genre while still telling an excellent story. I loved it, 5 stars, and that cover is just fantastic. So, it was an excellent start to the week for me. After that, not so much, because I finished Richard Laymon's In the Dark, which was 500 pages. Look, many of us have said it before, when you read Laymon, you aren't generally expecting to get a good book. You're expecting to get an enjoyable book, at most, enjoyable in its ridiculousness. This one, however, even for Laymon, was pretty poor, and I don't honestly know why he even stuck with it, other than I guess I was kind of curious what he was going to do with it, and the answer is not a whole lot. It really, really flops at the end there. The payoff is just not worth it, and there's one scene at the very end that really took me off because it was totally unnecessary, and it was just Laymon being cruel. Which, yeah, I get it, it's Laymon, he's always kind of cruel to his characters, but it rubbed me the wrong way, and yeah, it really wasn't worth it. This was 1.5 stars. There's better Laymon out there if you want the schlocky ridiculousness that is his writing. This is not it. Now, number 3 was a significant step up. This is a very quick, really almost a short story more than anything, but this is the Cat's Guide to Human Behavior, as told to the human Xina Uhl. So this is from the cat's perspective, explaining basically just what to expect when you adopt a human. And it's quick, it's like 30-35 pages, but it's fun. I gave this 3.5-4 stars. You know, obviously there's not a lot of substance to it, but it is very enjoyable. Mostly kind of sticks to what you would expect, although there are a few, it's cutesy, but then there are a few parts that are kind of unnecessarily gross or vulgar, so that kind of detracted away in my opinion. But for what it is, it's enjoyable, and it's on Kindle Unlimited, and I was just curious, read it in one quick sitting, and, you know, it is what it is. Now, the only audiobook for this week, I finally finished Chris Turner's Planet Simpson, and as I expected, this was a 5-star read. I learned a lot about the history of The Simpsons here, and I loved the way that Chris Turner really did a deep dive into some of these episodes and into the minds, into the psyches of those that were coming up with these stories. He really kind of showed me how deep this show is. Sure, on surface level, it is simply another comedy, but it's far more than that. And I think if you are more than just a casual Simpsons watcher, then you already know that. But even so, I learned a lot about The Simpsons. I will give that little disclaimer here, I guess, in that this book, Chris Turner does delve into politics, which I know will immediately offend some people, but and yes, you're reading a book about The Simpsons. You don't necessarily expect to delve that deeply into politics. Obviously, there are very much political aspects in regards to The Simpsons and what they portray, but he does kind of, there are times where it stops relating anyway to The Simpsons and just gets into the political and humanitarian side, but I did not mind it. I found myself agreeing with what he had to say, and I enjoyed the fresh outlook on some recent, as of the last 30 years, events, and what they meant, not just in another's eyes, but to someone living in Canada rather than here in the United States. It was interesting, and but overall, this was a fantastic book. I will absolutely be on the lookout for a copy of this book, although it is rather hard to find. but I want a copy of this book, and I will be revisiting this audiobook as well because it was a fantastically enjoyable audiobook, and it really made me want to delve into the world of The Simpsons again with greater force, perhaps. And the final book of the week that I finished was the new Darcy Coates, This Is Where He Can't Find You. This was another 5-star read. Darcy Coates is just, she is quickly becoming one of my favorite authors. And it just seems lately like she can do no wrong in these books that I'm reading. But Where He Can't Find You is a really great one. This is about a town that lives in fear of this creature, or possibly man, known as the Stitcher, who seems to be a serial killer of sorts. He will kidnap people. They may disappear for months at a time, and then when their bodies are found, it's not really their bodies that are found, but basically he will take them apart and stitch them together again, sometimes stitching multiple bodies together, sometimes stitching them up into sacks, or just really disturbing things like that. This has been going on for a long time. There is just a major rash of disappearances, and these townspeople kind of just deal with it. It is expected in this town that when the Stitcher is getting ready to kidnap someone, technology goes AWire, cars will stop working sometimes, cell phones are very unreliable. As the technology gets simpler, it is more likely that it will continue working, but when the Stitcher is on the cusp of an attack, like I said, things like a flashlight even will stop working. So, of course, you think, well, why don't you just leave? Why wouldn't you just leave? But people try, and something kind of beyond their power ends up bringing them back. They're kind of stuck here, trapped here, almost like they are cursed to be haunted by this thing for the rest of their lives. And we don't even really know if it's a creature or a man who is somehow doing this, although the group of friends that we were following are positive that it is one particular man. He is always there at the crime scenes. Part of it is that the Stitcher always uses this red thread when he stitches people back together, and people know that this man puts an order in once a month for massive amounts of this red thread. So it's weird because everyone seems to know that this is the guy, and yet the police won't go after him. No one will do anything about it. The last person to have tried to do something about it is one of the main characters' father, and he disappeared. He never came back after deciding that he was going to go and hash it out with this guy. So this town just lives in dread of the Stitcher, and this group of friends, they have particular rules that they follow to make sure that they are less likely to have something happen to them. And yet, even though they have these rules, something happens one evening, and one of the main characters, her sister, is taken by the Stitcher, and it's up to them to rescue her. So there's a lot going on there. I've given you a pretty decent synopsis there, in fact, and it's a great book. Like I said, I know some people are hesitant about young adult fiction because they feel it's just not, well, it's not mature enough. I didn't even know that this was supposed to be young adult until the very end, when I read that little thing at the back about the publisher. Now you are again following a group of teenagers, but that's it. This feels like any other Darcy Coates that I've read up to this point. She is just on the mark. The setup is strange and kind of asks you to suspend your belief a little bit at the beginning there, just because it's such an odd thing that you know, she doesn't ease you into it. This is just, hey, this is how things are in this town, and you've got to deal with it the same way they do. But if you can do that, it's fantastic. Just as good as everything else I've read from her so far, and a great story here where you as the reader for the longest time also do not know, is this some supernatural creature? Is this a serial killer who uses to his advantage the weird things that occur in this town? What exactly is going on? So, excellent book here. Again, just came out, but well worth a read. And 5 stars again. So, like I said, I'm loving Darcy Coates. So far, I have not read anything by her that was not just fantastic. So, yeah, but that is my wrap up for this week. 5 books, and of the 5 books, 3 5-star reads, 1 3.5 4-star read, and then 1.5. So really an excellent week with some more to come. I'm currently in, just started Peter Pan, which I'll probably finish by the time this video is up. And then I'm going to slowly work my way through Legacies here. I'm about 1/3 of the way in now, but I decided I'm going to slow down, take my time with it, and probably just read a little bit until I finish it towards the end of the month. I'm listening to Halloween, which is the novelization of one of the newer movies, and that has been awesome. I was a little hesitant going in, but it's been fantastic so far, and this is another one that I know I'm going to want to pick up a physical copy of, because I didn't expect it to be so good, but it's really good. So yeah, that catches you up on what I'm reading now, what I read this last week, and you got a little bit of cat footage. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay safe. Drink great coffee. Cheers.